Welcome to Creators Corner, a Charlevoix Circle of Arts YouTube series where we highlight a new Michigan-based artist every second Monday of the month. Hello, I am Ebony Amber, your host for Creators Corner here at the Charlevoix Circle of Arts Gallery, and today our special guest is Steve Toornman. Thank you for coming here and doing this interview with us. We really are excited about it. You have been a part of the Circle Arts for many years now. In fact, you've participated in the Charlevoix Circle of Arts Summer Salon, and you were also one of two artists featured in a 2021 exhibit here at the Circle called Presence. That's very cool. What was the medium, or what was the concept for Presence?
The other guy was a sculptor, and he did generally figurative stuff, although his work was real modern. Mm-hmm. My work was generally figurative, but dealt with figures that were like toys and stuff like that. So the idea was presence of a figure, so that was the only real link between the two of us.
That's really cool. And so how long have you been part of the Circle Arts?
I think it's probably been 6 to 10 years, although I'm not good on details.
Wow, that's a good run. That's really
awesome.
I've
actually been in a lot of shows here, but I couldn't remember them all. So.
Yeah, it gets to that point, right? The list is just...
Yeah, I don't keep track of that stuff anymore.
Yeah, I get it. So if you have been a part of Circle Arts for at least 6 years, how long have you been in the Michigan area?
Well, I've been in Michigan all my life. I'm from Kalamazoo. I moved up here, though, over 40 years ago to Charlevoix. So,
okay.
Yep.
So you're a resident, Charlevoix resident.
I was a Charlevoix resident for 40 years, but I'm now living in East Jordan.
Oh, okay. I love East Jordan. We visit there a lot, frequently. So how did art start for you? Have you always been creative, or is that something that evolved over time? Or?
My parents tell a story that when I was still in the crib, they gave me a coloring book and crayons, but instead of coloring the coloring book, I made a mural on the wall.
Oh boy.
So I've been like drawing ever since. So I guess you can say I was a born artist. I've always been drawing.
And are your parents artists, or was this just something that...
No, my dad was a florist, and but he did venerate Rembrandt, which had a big influence on my life. So.
Wow, that's cool.
Yep.
And your mother?
My mom was a housewife, which was typical for that time period. So, and
cool.
Two brothers, or one brother and one sister.
And being a mother takes its own kind of creativity, so I'm sure that that's where...
Yeah, she had a lot of work to do, actually.
3 kids, absolutely. I've got 3, I know. So what inspires you to paint a particular thing?
That's a good question. The landscapes, I do 2 specific kinds of work, landscapes, and then I also do toys, figurines, soldiers. They generally tend to be vintage type things, but there has to be something about those that I have to want to paint them. So some of them were actually started out, they were my father's toys, and that's how I got started on it, because he gave me his collection of toy lead, pre-war lead soldiers and stuff, and I thought, well, these are really cool. I'm gonna paint those.
Did you have to hold them with gloves, because now we know that lead is not...
Well, yeah, these are old, and some of them are really decrepit, so after you handle them, yes, you should wash your hands, and not touch your face and that kind of thing. Yeah, they're really old. But since then, I branched out, and I buy a lot of stuff off eBay. But it has to be something that I really want to paint. The landscape stuff, that's the other half of what I do. Those are all from personal experience, and basically I take my pickup truck and I drive out in the country and I look around, and it has to be something it has to be at the right time and place. And sometimes I'll drive 2 or 3 hours and not even take a picture. But that's how you get the really good images, is you're really picky,
So what is it about that particular scene that will inspire you? Is it the lighting? Does it have to be certain colors?
Yes, all that, and the subject matter itself, but the lighting. So generally, like, I go out during the morning so that the light is coming from the east, or I go out in the late afternoon and the light's coming from the west.
Okay.
So you get those dramatic light and shadow effects and more intense color.
Yeah. And do you like a particular season?
No, although I must admit I don't do a lot of winter scenes.
I was going to say, you have plenty to work from if you like to paint snow.
Right. Well, yeah, but you don't have a lot of sun all the time.
Right.
But I have done them, and but no, I prefer the other stuff. It tends to be more rural. It's not like the typical sunshine and sailboats type, art that you see a lot up here. So I basically drive out in the country and work from there.
It sounds like you're looking for a little bit of drama. Like you want that drama lighting sort of,
yes.
a little bit more.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It's more fun to paint and it's more fun to look at.
Yeah, and getting back to the toys, so you said you painted your father's old toys, and then you have a few that I think maybe you would have picked up, but what about that toy would make you want to paint it that didn't belong to your father?
They're all different types of things. Some of them are just weird. Some of them are, some of the paintings are actually trying to be funny. They're comical because the figurines are kind of comical. But also the thing I find interesting about these figurines and toys and dolls and all that is mostly they were never really meant to be looked at very carefully. So when you do look at them carefully, I think it's very interesting.
Yeah.
And then the thing I like about it is that part of me comes out when I paint them. So you never know, it doesn't actually end up looking exactly like the figurine, because the figurines and the dolls, they're only this big, but I'm painting them this big or even this big. So that's why it's always like you never know what you're going to get, until you finish it. So.
Right, and I'm wondering about that. What part of you comes out in that? Are you looking at it? You changing the colors of the pieces, or you sort of are manipulating
very
the
much,
faces?
Very much so, and the background colors and the lighting. When I get the object, I spend a lot of time photographing them and moving the light source around in different places, and I go through a whole process where I photograph them, I put them in the computer, I mess with them in there, then I print them out, and I might project them, I might not, but it changes throughout each process. So when you get to the end, it doesn't end up being, it doesn't look like the little tiny figure like this.
Right. And speaking of your process, do you have a process where do you have to listen to music, or do you have to have a specific layout?
When I paint, I like to listen to ambient music a lot. If I'm done with the hard stuff and I'm just cleaning up or framing or something like that, I might put rock and roll on, or classical or whatever. But generally when I paint, I want something pretty easy to listen to.
Something in the background, so you can just zone out.
Yep.
Yeah. Are you a morning painter, or yes?
Big time. I'm up early, and then to bed early.
Yeah, I hear that. I'm the same exact way. So who would you say are your artistic influences?
Well, all the artists that have existed before me, although I told you I had a huge respect for Rembrandt because of my father. I think he was the first painter that really looked at mankind with a real empathy, and a lot of artists have done it since then. But I don't know, to name a few varied artists through time, Charles Birchfield, Albert Pinkham Ryder, Picasso, of course, Pollock, de Kooning, and then even some of the more modern artists like John Curran and lots of different artists. I like lots of different people. So
well, what I see with your work too is that it sort of has this vintage meets modern aesthetic. Is that on purpose? That's kind of what the vibe you like? Yes,
very much so. They're really, when you look at them, they're really quite representational. But since the subject matter is, basically these kids, these figurines, they had women that were painting them really quickly. It was just a production thing that they sold millions of them. And so when you look at them really close and then you paint them like that, they almost have a real abstract effect to them, And part of that is the way I paint it, but also part of it is just the way they look when you look at them really close. And I like that. So parts of them are quite representational and look very realistic, but because of the crudity of the subject matter, and I like that combination.
You almost force somebody to look closer at the toys by picking up those little pieces of them the way that they were originally painted, because a lot of people don't. You see like an old toy or something, you just look at it quick, those are eyeballs, that's a mouth, and you sort of just put it away, but you're bringing it closer to the eye and adding your touch to it. Yeah,
and also especially the older they are, they have a patina, and some of them I've painted are completely, you just see the lead, like there's no facial colored left or anything. And those are interesting too.
Yeah.
And of course that has sometimes a grotesque effect on what you're doing. But anyway, it makes them all real interesting, I think.
Yeah, very cool. And speaking of interesting, you sent me a cover for the rubber stamp catalog with a bunch of crisp graphic imagery. Could you tell me a little bit more about that project?
Well, that was a living. I created that business from scratch when rubber stamps were really, really popular in the 80s. Really popular. It was on like the Today Show and everything. And so I thought it would be cool to have a stamp company that specialized in cars and motorcycles.
So that was your stamp company?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I did the whole thing in my basement of my house and just came up with it. And I did that for like 14 years. So instead of having a real job, I did that. But
that sounds like a lot of work to me. That sounds like a real job.
It was a lot of work. Yeah, they were hard to make, and it was all by hand. And
so you made the stamps by hand and everything?
Yeah, I had a vulcanizer. I did the whole deal.
Wow.
I ordered in the mounts and the supplies and stuff. But we had customers from all over the world, and mail art was really big back then. And it was about people sending each other art-colored envelopes and stuff, and rubber stamps were part of that. They would decorate the envelope with stamps, and it was really big until the internet came along. The internet killed it, deader than a doornail. But that's life.
But everything comes back around, and everything vintage is like super, popular now.
Right.
And I could see there being a rubber stamp revolution. Like I could definitely see that coming back. Yeah,
it could be. I imagine this stuff could become very collectible. You never know.
Yeah.
But I'm out of it now.
So you did the rubber stamp stuff. You're a painter. You do the landscapes and the toys. You're very creatively inspired, it sounds like, but do you ever hit a block? And if so, how do you get yourself out of that?
I'm not a block person.
Okay.
I'm really not. I have a million ideas, and so if something doesn't work, I might take a day off. That usually freshens me up. But I got a stack of ideas on hand. That's one of the reasons I like going back and forth between the landscape and the figurine toy stuff, is that it's two completely different things. And so you get tired of one and you can switch to the other. So no, I'm not a block person. I know that's a pretty common thing with artists, but it's never been for me. So.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
And because you don't have a block, and because you are so eclectic in the interest that you have in the things that you paint, what would you tell up-and-coming artists that are just getting started or that are frustrated with the industry, or what kind of advice would you give from your history with all these different types of art?
The people that are going to be artists in the long run really don't need advice, because they're just the stubborn ones that just keep on doing it. So I would say, follow it like Churchill said, never, ever, ever give up. I don't know what people's expectations are when they decide that they're going to be an artist or anything, but that's a wide range of things that you could do. You don't necessarily, like I did a lot of graphic design, I did a lot of advertising and printing and freelance illustration. None of that was really fine art, but I was working towards that. And those are the kinds of jobs you can get training for, and people will give you a paycheck for. And then on the side, you can just keep working on your art until you can do it full time, and just keep at it. You know.
Did you go to school for art?
Yeah, I graduated from Kendall School of Design in Grand Rapids with a major in illustration.
Nice.
But then after that, I did advertising. I was in the printing industry, and then I did a lot of freelance graphic design and illustration. I did the stamp company.
Have you ever illustrated a book or anything, or have any desire to do something like that?
Yeah, I've produced a couple limited edition books. There's a guy that prints fine art books. He's over near Bel Air, and I produced a couple books with him. One was of my poetry and etchings, and then another one I did with my ex-wife and another woman. I have illustrated some books, but I couldn't tell you what they are right now.
The names are, that's okay. That's okay. So you've done landscapes and you're doing these toy pieces. Is there another subject that you're interested in getting into?
Not right now, but that could change.
That could always change.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I've got a lot of diversity already, so that satisfies me most of the time.
Yeah.
I've done other things, but they're one-offs, and they don't necessarily fit in what we're talking about today. So.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you so much, Steve, for doing this interview for the Charlevoix Circle of Arts. We really appreciate it. And if anybody has any questions about Steve or wants to learn more about Steve, you can look in the description box down below and find that information there. Thank you. Thanks again for watching Charlevoix Circle of Arts Creators Corner. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel and hit the bell down below to be notified of our next video premiere. These are 2 easy ways to show Michigan artists just how much we appreciate their contribution to our beautiful state.